Hello and welcome back to Jenna Gets Creative. I'm a little bit behind on getting this Friday video recorded because we're expecting a hurricane this weekend, which is unusual for Newfoundland. Normally it makes landfall somewhere else and gets downgraded to a tropical storm, and then it's, less serious winds, but it'll actually still be a Category 1 hurricane when it gets here. Not the worst, but, not what we're used to up here, so I've been preparing the blog, getting it ready to run itself through Tuesday if it has to, just in case we've got some bad power line damage and we don't have power for a couple of days. So that's why you're probably seeing this late on Friday. Hopefully I actually even get it out on Friday because, it's 11 in the morning and I am just recording this voiceover before I go and actually paint the piece that you're watching right now. This voiceover sounds a little bit rough because I'm just winging it. I have no plan. Upcoming this weekend, we also have the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And since I have no other plans for today's video, I thought it would be nice to do a bit of a tribute. I will be painting a silhouette of the New York City skyline pre-attack, and I'm going to do just a watercolor gradient pretty sky above it, and I'm going to just ramble until I have nothing left to say, and then I'll let the music play for a little bit so that we can all just be silent for a moment and reflect on whatever this makes you reflect on. I'm Canadian. I was born and raised in Canada, so 9/11 was weird for me because it wasn't a homeland threat. It wasn't our tragedy. I remember I was getting ready for school when this was all over the news and we still had to go to school. And I know my friends across the border didn't. So, yeah, it was weird. I remember taking as much time as I possibly could out of my morning routine to sit in my grandparents' living room and watch the news. And like the goody two-shoes, smarty pants student I was, I started taking notes because my first class of the day was social studies, and I figured we would be discussing this, very important world events happening right before me, and our school wasn't canceled, so we were going. So I did, and then I remember having nothing to contribute in class for that discussion. Everybody else made the points that I was going to make. I also just, when we finally got to class, it didn't seem like it was an appropriate thing to talk about yet, as it was happening. I was in 8th grade, by the way, and in the school district I grew up in, that is the beginning of high school. And in Canada, most school districts start school after Labor Day weekend. So this was the second week of school. Brand new school, brand new class, brand new classmates, brand new teacher. And we're sitting there in first period, all wondering if we should even be there, all wondering if we're even safe, if there are more attacks coming. Because, we were just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. That's Canada's 3rd largest city. Pretty big international airport, all of that. We didn't know if this was going to be limited to the States or not, but we were still there, and a lot of us didn't know each other, and we're just crammed in this room, and we're discussing what everybody was able to absorb before walking to school. It was so surreal. And of course, you get home from school and it's still on the news. And the rest of the week it's still on the news. And the rest of the month it's still on the news. I remember hearing everybody talking about how America was now going to war. I remember everybody talking about how Canada was going to support them and we were also going to war. And as a 13-year-old kid living in a peaceful country, I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know what that was going to bring. And I think the biggest impact this had on my life, besides the obvious travel, airline security stuff that everybody gets to deal with now, I think the biggest impact this had on my life was the fact that I have always been active in online communities, and I had a lot of friends in the States. So while nothing was directly happening to me in British Columbia, Canada, some of my closest friends were definitely affected by this. And some of my closest friends grew up and ended up in military families. One of my closest friends who I have kept up with over the years, her husband is in active service. She's a year older than me, so when this happened, they were 14, not 13, and by the time they were 19, they were married and he was deployed. I don't know if he was ever deployed there, but he has had many deployments over the years. He's on a deployment right now, and it continues to be heartbreaking just keeping up with that family on Facebook and knowing the fear that they've always got in the back of their minds that their husband and their father may not come home, and nobody knows. And there's still a few more years left before he's allowed to retire, before his contract's up. And that means there's still more deployments to come. And their second child, their son, is just 2 months older than my daughter. That father has had to be away for more time than he's been home in his son's life. And that's heartbreaking. And I know that this event that I'm painting memorial of, I don't want to say it too often in case we get suppressed in the algorithm here. I know that this event caused that. I know that there are a lot of families that are doing the military thing still because somebody felt the call then, 20 years ago, because of this one event. And of course, with what's currently going on in Afghanistan now with the new takeover, it's such an uncertain time. I know that most of the world's governments are going to recognize this new government, recognize them as a sovereign nation. And I don't know if that's good or not. Good in the sense of the right thing to do. Like, I think at this point, everybody wants to avoid another war, another conflict, but also weighing the how many lives are going to be saved by acting versus not acting. And this might be a case where we lose fewer lives by not acting, but it's still not a great situation. Kind of getting off topic though, because the piece I'm doing is a tribute for 9/11. Another way that this really impacted my life, where I was never from the area it happened. It was never my neighbors, my friends, my family who were directly there. Nobody I know died. Nobody I know was on scene. But one way it really affected me was the music I like to listen to. There have been a lot of tribute pieces. One that really always hit hard for me was one of the country songs, Letters from Home. I believe that one came out after, and there was a campaign with that one to send letters to soldiers who were deployed. I could be wrong. I am not by a computer or anything at the moment. I could be wrong, but I believe that one was John Michael Montgomery. But the one that immediately came to mind when I decided I was trying this was Brian Littrell, Gone Without Goodbye. If you are familiar with the Backstreet Boys, Brian Littrell is one of the two blondes, or at least was blonde most of the time in the late 90s and early 2000s. At this point, every Backstreet Boy has had a solo album. Brian Littrell was the second one to do it, and even if you're a fan of the Backstreet Boys, you may not actually be familiar with Littrell's solo stuff because a lot of it was very gospel. Gone Without Goodbye definitely hammers home a gospel message in the last verse, but the opening verse, the part that really gets me, the part that's about this, the lyrics are, "Have you seen my son, not too tall, 5'8"? She held up a color copy photograph from his wedding day. And this is his pregnant wife, carrying his last dream. He walked down 46 floors before he felt the rush of gasoline. I can feel the pain, look into her eyes, but I don't know Gone Without Goodbye. If I could reach the sky and bring him right back to your arms. Though I haven't seen your son, he's forever in my life." So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the impact and the pain and the grief of this world event, although it didn't happen in my country, it happened in my neighboring country, it has permeated through the media I consumed growing up. It has permeated through culture, popular culture, and it's hard to believe that that was 20 years ago. It's also hard to believe that I was already a teenager and in high school 20 years ago. So many lives were lost. Such a tragedy. One that I hope that the world never has to face again, but the pessimist in me figures we probably will. Anyway, if the comment bots do not decide that everything in here is inappropriate like they've been doing with perfectly fine comments, sorry everybody whose comments have been disappearing. Dagwood Spot in particular, I did see your comment on Wednesday's video. Thank you so much for your kind words. I don't know what it's doing. If the comment bots don't come and delete everybody's comments, if you feel compelled to do so, share what were you doing that day and how has it impacted your life in the last 2 decades. So we're just gonna let some music play, we're gonna have a moment of silence, and I'm not gonna do my normal outro because that doesn't quite feel appropriate. So, yeah. Hopefully I will see you on Tuesday. If we have some lasting power disruptions, that might get pushed off. But next Friday is an Art Addict Science video, so you will at least see that from me. All the best to everybody. I really appreciate you.